Hey everybody, Marcel Irnie Racing News. This is the Daily Rumble, September 27th on a Wednesday. So let's go over the top news that I think you guys might not have heard about and should be aware of. Syria, U.S. soldiers are on Syrian oil fields, guys. Syria would like to remind the world that the United States is illegally occupying its country and stealing its oil. We got an occupation, guys, and it's not the freedom fighter Canadians in Ottawa. The nation of Syria has appealed to United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the Security Council President Faret Hoxha for help. In summary, the Syrian Foreign Ministry says that the U.S. and its tools of terrorist organizations and militias continue to violate Syrian sovereignty and plunder the country's wealth and strategic resources, end quote. They demand an end to the occupation and a return of lands it occupies and the oil and gas fields to the Syrian state, end quote. It's not just land, it is also oil. Syria says that the U.S. has stolen $115.2 billion worth of oil at an average of 150,000 barrels per day, guys. They've already stolen over $115 billion. Wow. Where is Trudeau on democracy, anti-terrorist, the world of terror? The U.S. Congress recently voted not to end the occupation in Syria, and the General Mark Milley said recently that the U.S. would be there for the foreseeable future. Last year, UN Deputy Spokesperson for the Secretary General Farah Haq, it's HAQ, was asked about this by Chinese journalist Desi Zhu. He seemed very confused by the question. It's been more than a year since then. Maybe they'll understand it by now. Crazy, guys. Here we have people standing up for the Canadian Constitution, the Charter Rights and Freedoms, and doing peaceful assembly, association, right to freedom of press, all across Canada. And we get our totalitarian, authoritative, liberal Trudeau government saying that we're occupying and freezing bank accounts and stomping on people with horses. Let's get on to the next news article. On to Joe Biden's re-election preparation. So Axios reported that Joe Biden is preparing to work with physical therapists to train his body not to trip and fall in public. Well, he didn't make it very long because on Tuesday, just yesterday, he did trip while exiting Air Force One. And, well, he caught himself, a little stumble. Got lucky there, Joe Biden. You got lucky. Let's try it in slow motion. And, oh, yeah, he missed his heel. Now, back to Canada in all the news where we have our liberal authoritarian government calling freedom fighters with Canadian flags standing up for our Constitution. They call them names, the N-word, the N-A-Z-I word, guys. For some reason, they'll try to demonetize us if we say that word. So, Canada's Speaker Parliament Anthony Rota has officially resigned over the scandal to have all of Parliament applaud an ex-Nazi soldier. And not just any soldier. He was an SS officer during World War II in a volunteer regiment that performed genocide, supposedly. Now, of course, we have to also remember that Anthony Rota is just the guy, the Speaker of the House, the liberal that is jumping on the sword. Or I should go like this. Jumping on the sword. When he's not the one vetting, he might have had the idea, but the Canadian government, Trudeau's government, is the one that vets everybody. And, nobody gets around Trudeau who isn't on Trudeau's side, pro-Trudeau. Like, Trudeau doesn't do public speaking anymore. I mean, he's heckled, he's sworn at everywhere when he has to walk outside of a building to get into his staple of 20, 30 car battalion to get out of town safely. So Anthony's jumping on the sword when it's, the Liberal government failed in actually vetting the individual, and propagating this whole thing, like it's all the propagation of Ukraine, is not one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Ukraine is fighting this war for democracy, even though they canceled the democratic elections. It's not a proxy war of the U.S. versus Russia. No, it's not Russia. It's not Russia defending the people of Donbass who have been genocided for the past 10 years and voted to have separation from Ukraine because they're being killed and their language is being suppressed. And there wasn't an imminent attack in 2021 that it was known from the Ukraine government that we were going to continue, not only been attacking it for 10 years, but they had attack planned and they knew the attack was coming. Again, they're shelling eastern Ukraine, the Russian ethnic people in eastern Ukraine who voted to separate. And because they voted to separate, they're going to murder more of them, perform more genocide on these Russian Ukrainian people. And they asked the Russian president and Russia, Putin, for help to save their lives because they're being murdered. The Ukraine government is performing genocide on them. And of course, so they needed help. So Putin initially didn't want to get involved. Obviously, he knows what this proxy war is there. But then he decided he had to help as per the rules of law, the rules of the world. You must help fellow man who's being murdered for genocide, right? Geneva Convention, etc. And not to mention the 40 biolabs in Ukraine that we couldn't talk about on CensorTube just a year ago. I would have got a strike for saying that. But now it is known. And let alone NATO sending up more bases all along the Russian border against the treaty that you're not allowed to have a base 1 foot closer to Russia. So on to the next story. Back to the USA, the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer revealed that President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, received $260,000 from Chinese nationals while President Biden was running for president. And both the wire transfers listed the president's address as the beneficiary address. So why would the president's address be used? Well, Hunter Biden lived at home with his father between 2017 and 2019. This would seem to contradict the president's assertion that he never had anything to do with his son's business dealings and that his family never received money from China. So what did the Bidens do with this money from Beijing? The Representative Comer asked. In 2019, an attorney for Hunter Biden said that Hunter Biden's role at one of the companies that made the wire was unpaid. He said that he had served only as a member of the board of directors, which he joined based on his interest in seeking ways to bring Chinese capital to international markets, end quote. Now, if he was, quote, unpaid, unquote, why did someone from the company pay him $10,000? Next story. Okay, the next story, let's talk about Epstein, the money trail, chasing Epstein's money trail. So JPMorgan Chase will pay $75 million to settle a lawsuit that claimed that the bank enabled Jeffrey Epstein and his sex trafficking organization. So let me say it again. JPMorgan Chase will pay $75 million to settle a lawsuit. This is the case brought by the U.S. Virgin Islands that claimed that the bank had processed over $1 billion of Epstein related to his sex trafficking business between 2003 and 2019. This was long after 2008 conviction for procuring a child for prostitution and soliciting a prostitute. The case was set to go to trial next month, but alas, no trial will happen now because they settled. This is the bank's second settlement related to Epstein. The second one from JPMorgan Chase. So all you guys putting your money in JPMorgan Chase, you're all got to realize what your money's involved with. In June, it settled a court case with victims of Jeffrey Epstein for approximately $290 million. So that was in June of this year. And now it's an extra $75 million they're paying out. So $365 million over this year. The bank had been fighting to prevent CEO Jamie Dimon from testifying in the court case and lost. Now, Jamie Dimon was on the hook to testify, but did not after a settlement was reached. So obviously, CEO Jamie Dimon knew about this Epstein money, this child trafficking, etc., involved in some capacity, and he really needed to plead the fifth to not incriminate himself, so they settled to not have him go on the witness stand. It's like me trying to get Constable Conrad Erbs on the witness stand. The Crown stayed the proceedings, so I wasn't able to cross-examine him. JPMorgan Chase has claimed that former executive Jess Stanley was responsible for keeping Epstein on as a client after the compliance department tried to end their relationship with him. The bank reached a separate settlement with Staley on Tuesday, but terms were not disclosed. So Jess Staley. On to Joe Biden crime in the USA. The Democrats only increase the crime by it feels like 5-10-fold. We know about Seattle. We know about Portland. We know about San Francisco closing down all the stores in their, where you go and get the clam chowder, the fun little market area. All the stores are closing down. Too much crime, guys. And we see it in Kelowna with the homeless and the crime. I had a guy steal my sandals. I had a guy try to steal my bicycle at the back. I had a guy trying to steal my generator off the back. I had a guy stealing my straps off of my dirt bike, and he tried to steal my giant loop luggage off my dirt bike. I had a guy steal my flashlight out of my dirt bike pack. I mean, that's just me and my personal story over the last year. Insane, right? And that's only the ones I know about. So how many stores of Target, how many Target stores are closing in major cities? So 9 in New York, Seattle, San Francisco, and Portland due to the constant retail crime. And we already know that, was it the Walmarts shut down in Portland as well? Both of their stores gone. I mean, yeah, thanks a lot, Joe Biden. Thanks a lot, Trudeau. Thanks a lot, you totalitarian idiots, just purposely destroying our countries. And not to mention, look at Germany. Look at all these other countries battling with the same issues because of their stupid governments. Look at Australia. Oh, look who just resigned from Australia's, the New South Wales area. Okay, guys, so my name is Marcel Irnie. This is the Daily Rumble, and September 27th, Wednesday. Here it's 2:01 p.m. Thanks for watching. Maybe I'll do more of these. Let me know if you enjoy the news updates and if you want me to do this on a 5-day-a-week basis. Cheers.